There's going to be a war coming up of two planets. And one planet environment is comprised of sand and metal and geodes and gemstones, all kinds of mineral things like that. There's no liquid water. All the water is stored in vapor chambers in the sky center because the ground of the planet gets too hot, except for one day of the year called Namafahe. And during Namafahe, everybody comes down to play on the sand, because that's the one day of the year where the vapors let out of the vapor chambers and it actually rains. So people play in the wet sand and they let the water run in their hair and stuff, and that's just one of their many national holidays. And every other day, there's two main districts to it. There's the skyline, and then you have the sky district. And the skyline district is kind of like middle class families, like the poor people. They just kind of live on the steps and the elevators to and from the surface world. And whenever they go down to the surface, they scavenge whatever they can find, so when they go back to the top, they can sell it at the local shopkeep to get a couple of gold coins, till they can buy themselves some armor and go out into the wasteland below and, make some real money as a mercenary or a gun for hire. But anyways, the middle class people, they work for companies like Diantor and Siphonex, which are all companies that, they try to investigate the paranormal and open doors to the spirit realm. And that's what this planet is about. And this planet is called Cortex X25. Okay? Now, I'm not going to say that again, because if you say it too many times, then you'll get teleported there, and there's not enough oxygen to support human lungs. So, I'm just going to call it that planet. And it doesn't matter, because you've heard enough about that planet. Now, the other planet in the war is going to be it's like a red planet. I'm seeing it. Okay, it's covered in like desert rock type things, right? But it has these vast oceans, but they're like they're like in holes in the rocks, so there'll be like a big eroded out area where you can just jump in, and straight away it's really deep. It's not like a lake or anything. They're just like big pockets of water that are used as drinking holes for the populace. See, for here, there's no tier-based lifestyle. Everybody lives in whatever they can find. The little hovels and caves, or a makeshift hut built out of clay. Life is tough on this planet. And, it rarely ever rains, but there is a lot of groundwater. I mean, the locals bathe in it, they drink from it, they clean their kits with it, they clean their dishes with it. It's a hard knock life for these people, really. But what they've got to do is they've got to take it to the top of a mountain, guarded by a spirit priest, and it has to be blessed by Saint Jean-Baptiste Varu. And once Saint Jean-Baptiste Varu blesses the water, it can be brought down again to the pool that it was taken from, and reintegrated with the other water molecules, and it will then cleanse all water on the planet. It'll shoot a beacon of light into the sky, wiping all bacteria off of the planet, excluding the beneficial ones in our bodies and on other organisms that would be on the planet. Anyway, so these two planets of that planet, this one is called Grimlock 11T5. Okay? So remember those. And so the war is because so red planet needs metal planet's metal, right? And metal planet needs red planet's rocks. Well, see, red planet won't give their rocks without getting metal, and the metal planet doesn't think that it's a good idea to be giving away their metal, but they maybe would give away metal if they got some rocks first. But see, it's kind of like, sibling syndrome, where one is always at odds with the other, because it's like one is like, and the other's like, nuh-uh, because each of them have what the other one wants, and neither of them want to give it up without getting the others. So it's like, I'm not going to give you rocks until you give me metal, and then it's like, I'm not going to give you metal until you give me rocks. So they're at kind of like a standstill, and basically their culture's falling apart because unintentionally they base so much of their everyday life on things involving the materials that they can no longer obtain due to this standby. This stalemate, if you will. So the war is going to be made up of foot soldiers, a lot of them, and there's going to be, over several hundred years, this war is going to be taken very seriously. No trade is going to be committed for a while, and most likely everyone's going to die before this even gets planned out, because it's such a terrible idea, but that's the way these two planets are living. So they're going to spend as long as it takes. See, these planets are about, I don't know, we'll just say 3, I don't even know if that's 3 light years away from each other. That's not even a long distance. Okay, we'll say 172 light years away from each other. Okay, so they've got to build a land bridge to and from each planet. Now, each planet is pitching in on this, okay? So the opposing soldiers on the front lines of that bridge, building the bridge, they're going to meet up with each other, and they're going to have to work together to build that bridge. And they're all going to high-five, each one of them, like at the end of a sports match, where they all line up and they walk down and high-five each other and then come back around. Well, that's what's going to happen. So the soldiers, each of them are going to walk all the way to the other planet and shake everybody on the planet's hands. And once they do that, they're going to have to think, do they still think it's worth it? Do they still think it's a good idea to go to war? And eventually somebody's going to have to stand down. Because the only object of war that they're going to have is their fists. Right? And their fists aren't a good enough combat weapon to have for a war, because their war is based on guns, and they can't have guns without metal, and some reason they need rock. I guess it's because of the gunpowder. They're going to need rocks, or not rocks, but gunpowder, and that's going to be found on the rock planet. So they have to work together, really, in order for them to be able to kill each other.